Hi everyone. Today we'll be looking at a really useful idea that will instantly increase your rating. Tension. Tension is when pieces can trade with each other, but as you'll see in this game, unless you have a good reason to, you should generally avoid this. In this game, an incredibly strong player, Vera Menchik, is playing with the white pieces. Menchik, by the way, was the first ever women's world champion, and very much in the style of Judith Polgar, she was beating up the top men in the world, even back in the early 1900s when misogyny was quite rampant. Her opponent was one of my favorite players of all time, Jose Raul Capablanca, who was the third world champion, and was probably one of the most naturally gifted players of all time. Vera, by the way, I don't know why she's not more famous than she is. She was so strong. In fact, in that same tournament where she played Capablanca, she beat the soon-to-be world champion Max Euwe. I probably butchered that pronunciation, but she beat him twice. Capablanca said she was the only woman to play like a man. And she was quite a badass. Like, when she was asked about what she thought of the men doubting her, she said, "I look forward to drinking their blood." However, in this game, Menchik continuously makes the same mistake, which leads Capablanca to a completely one endgame. That is, she exchanged without good reason. So let's really get into the game. It was a Queen's Indian. Now, this opening was very trendy in those days, and between you and me, I think it's about to have a big resurgence. Anyway, e3, bishop b7, normal moves so far, c5. So, already there's some tension between the pawns. Should they take each other? No. Without good reason, you shouldn't. And white doesn't. She castles. Had she taken, this would have got rid of one of white's central pawns. And when black takes back, they're going to be able to take over the center with like 3 pawns that can influence the center, whereas, white's lost one. So castles, correct. And again, black shouldn't trade, because right now this bishop is blocked in by the pawn, right? If you trade, you're only doing white a favor. So knight c6, leaving the tension, c3, e6, and now white starts to go for sort of the wrong idea here. Knight e5, moving the same piece twice. Black just plays d6 and provokes this capture, which shouldn't be done. Now, when black takes back, notice how many pieces each side has out. 2-1. White managed to trade off one of their active pieces. So queen e2, preparing e4, looks like it makes the most sense, but after bishop e7, e4 wasn't played. I think e4 should have been played. I'm pretty sure it was the best move. Instead, bishop b5 was played. Again, sort of the wrong idea, saying, let's trade, but Capablanca just says, okay, I'm not going to. And after she trades, notice how many pieces each side has out. Black has used the opportunity to get out 3 pieces, whereas white only has 1 out. Their bishop and their knight on the queen side, they're trapped in. So knight d2, this is a good idea. And after castles, again, taking without good reason is incorrect. And now Capablanca can take back in either way, really, with the d-pawn, which is what he did in the game. This leaves him with very, very nice pawn structure. Or he can also take with the b-pawn, which gives him a very dominant center, but leaves him an isolated a-pawn. And Capablanca loved his endgames. He liked nice, even pawn structure, very harmonious, so he took with the d-pawn. Now e4 comes, and Capablanca makes use of the open d-file with the rook a d8, e5, knight d5, knight f3. White is able to untangle their pieces. Black begins to double the rooks. White contests the d-file, develops the bishop, and now Capablanca starts expanding on the queen side, as you should do. King f1. This didn't make a whole lot of sense to me, and in fact it isn't a very good move. Knight b6. Bishop f4, and now the rooks can take each other, but without good reason, shouldn't, which is why Capablanca just played h6. Right now, both white and black share control of the d-file. The rooks look at each other. But when white captures black's rook with this exchange, Black captures back. Now black has complete control of the d file. And as it turns out, white cannot recontest for it because this is a blunder. This loses tactically, which Capablanca skillfully found. And again, you shouldn't trade without good reason, but here's some good reason. Takes a check, and now queen e4, hitting the bishop and also threatening this fork. So this exchange does win a pawn for black. Bishop g3, queen c4, and after queen e2, Capablanca found a win. He simplified first, and then with knight a4, this guarantees the win of a pawn. It's pretty cool. White cannot save the pawns, and so instead plays king d2, drops the b pawn, attempts to get the king active, but after knight c4, black is just up a pawn with a better endgame. White now plays knight d2, and this just digs the grave even deeper. Again, black has good reason to trade here. They have a much better endgame. They're up a pawn. Why not simplify some more? Now with this move, c4, this completely stops white from being able to progress through this center of the board. So bishop f4, and now a6, putting the majority of the pawns on light squares, the opposite color to white's bishop. Bishop b3, it's going to have a hard time actually achieving anything, that bishop. The king starts to get active, ignoring the bishop. And notice that the white king can only get so active after the black king stops them. Bishop a7. And now another strong move, f5. If white trades, they would lose another pawn. After en passant, bishop takes f6 check, that pawn is also dropping. So that is obviously not playable. Instead, white tries to create some counterplay with a4, hoping that Capablanca captures the pawn, which would give up a lot of the game. Of course he doesn't. He plays g6. After f4, h5, he's just waiting for Vera to run out of moves. And sure enough, with this tension between the A and the B pawns, white gives up and caves. This is incorrect because it's taking without good reason, and now after king takes, we have a passed A pawn, which is impossible to stop, really. White plays g3, and after a5, king e3 attempts to walk around to stop the pawn. However, it gives up this nice simplification tactic, bishop c5 check. This is a fork, so white must capture, and after king takes, this is a completely lost endgame, and white resigns. To give you some idea of how this game could have gone, white could have played king d2 to try and stop the pawn. However, after king d5, if white attempts to get the pawn, which is the only way to stop it promoting into a queen, black will capture their pawn with the easiest game to win of your life. So, the moral of this game, don't trade unless you have good reason. It's generally better to leave the tension. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.